Welcome, everybody. Thanks for joining today. My name is Tommy Gay. I'm a solutions architect supporting the enterprise side of the business development team. Excited to have you all here today, joining us for this deep dive with NV Series. And let's jump into it. So if you're new to Q-SYS, or maybe you're coming off of Infocom, you've probably seen us talk about Q-SYS being the Q-SYS AV platform, or a full stack AV platform. And really what that means is when you think about Q-SYS, we want you to think about Q-SYS as an ecosystem. Sure, we make black boxes like everybody else does. We make I/O, everything from NV that we're talking about today, to different processors, to ways to get audio inputs and outputs on and off the network, loudspeakers and cameras and things of that nature. But really what it is we're an ecosystem. So we're a software platform that starts with multimodal I/O, but all that runs on our intelligent platform OS, which is how we bring in our Q-SYS partners using our Q-SYS Open API. So we support Q-SYS, Google Meet, Zoom, like we're doing today, Microsoft Teams, and then things that we don't make. So ceiling microphones and some of the very kind of niche products like, let's say, video wall processors and things like that. We partner with people and bring their APIs into the Q-SYS platform. And then all that information then goes up to our cognitive cloud, which you might know as Reflect. Really, it's an ecosystem of products, not just a singular box. So today we're talking about NV. So to kick off a little bit and describe what our nomenclatures are, NV stands for network video. We decided early on to focus on network video and AV over IP versus your traditional, let's say, HD-based T type matrix switcher. Gives you a lot of flexibility and scalability, and especially when the customer comes to you at the end of the project and says, hey, I need to add one more display. In a traditional matrix scenario, that might be a little difficult because you might have a fixed I/O and you might have used up all of your 8 outputs or 16 outputs. Here, you can just plug another encoder or decoder into the network and have another output or another input. So the next set of numbers, 3 and 2, is typically the input and the outputs. So we're going to talk about the NV32 first. This has 3 HDMI inputs, 2 HDMI outputs, and then H usually describes the box's capabilities. So H here, this is an HDMI only box. So early on, a while ago, the NV32 got a feature upgrade to enable core mode. The NV32 is probably one of my favorite products in our product line. It's so full-featured, feature-rich, gives you a lot of flexibility to do a bunch of different things. It can operate in core mode, which means that it can run a small to medium conference room for you without needing to add on other boxes and other peripherals. But it can also run in peripheral mode. And one thing to note about the first 2 products that we're going to talk about, the NV32 and the NV21, it's one singular SKU, meaning that you don't have to worry about whether you're ordering an encoder or a decoder. You just need to know how many boxes you need and you order them. And then at design time, you can determine what that box is, whether it's an encoder or a decoder. So the NV32, as we said, can operate in 2 different modes, core mode and peripheral mode. Peripheral mode is the default, so when you pull it out of the box, it's going to be in peripheral mode. And then if you want to use it as a core, you go into Core Manager or the Peripheral Manager and turn its core mode on, and it'll change modes, and you're able to use it as a core processor. Really streamlines the integration when you're using Q-SYS. It also operates as a 3x2 video switcher, so it gives you not only your DSP functionality and your small video switching for a small room, but really kind of gives you everything you need for a very quick and simple installation. It does have USB bridging, so it's optimized for meeting spaces, allowing you to either use a codec of some kind, like a Lenovo Connect, that allow you to bring in your MTRs or your Zoom rooms. but also allows you to do BYO, bring your own meetings, and really flexible and for a single device. So here's the inputs and the outputs, 3 HDMI inputs, as I said, 2 HDMI outputs, one USB host connection for web conferencing integration, has four USB-A inputs for speakerphone. So we do allow you to bring 2 inputs and 2 outputs of speakerphone connectivity into Q-SYS from those USB-A ports. And then we also support USB HID integration. So it allows you to transport a single keyboard and mouse from a computer and connect it to, let's say, multiple devices in a room. Has some GPIO and an RS-232 input and output. It also provides analog audio, which allows an on and off ramp for analog into the system. And these do show up as 2 separate inputs and 2 separate outputs. So really it's 2 by 2. So, if you have a single input, you can wire it that way and have a single mono or a single mono output, or you can sum them together, or you can have stereo. So kind of discuss this. HDMI audio, you can have 8 channels of input audio, 8 channels of output audio. This is PCM only, so keep that in mind. If you need Dolby Digital, you'll have to use one of our DCIO products. Analog input on a TRS connector, ideal for microphones or audio players. Again, 2 separate channels on each of those. So as I said, when you pull this out of the box, it's going to be in peripheral mode. This can operate as an encoder or a decoder. So if you're going to stream a single input, it'll do 4K 60 444 on a single stream. The minute that you do above 2 or more than 1, it brings it down to 1080p 60. So you can stream 3 simultaneous HDMI connections over a single Ethernet connection at 1080p 60. A lot of flexibility. Now you can have dual outputs going to a display and still have a local source or a confidence monitor. So think of this as being in a podium. So I can have a podium confidence monitor while also streaming 3 simultaneous outputs. And then, like we said, you can stream 1 4K HDMI source. The minute you start streaming a second source or you connect to a second output, the EDID will automatically change and go to 1080p, and that way you'll stream at 1080p. And there's no no configuration that you have to do to make that change.
I think it's worth noting too, Tommy, that like you can limit it, right? You can say
Yes.
you can go in the software and say I don't want anything over 1080p so that you don't get any interruptions. The nice thing too is we're really talking about the limitations of that network port, right? Because and there's probably a slide in here too about how we vary our rate of compression and all of that. But right now 4K uses 700 to 800 meg of bandwidth, and we are able to on 1080p we max that out at 1080p 60 frame per second full motion video, could use up to 250, something like that. So that's how we can give 3 outputs out of that 1 gig network port at about 750. So I think it's just worth throwing the numbers out there. So anyways,
That's a great note. Yeah, thank you, Dan. Yeah, absolutely. This is a 1 gigabit network. So yeah, you have to be cautious about how much you're streaming over that 1 gig connection. So as a decoder, similar feature sets. It can decode a single 4K 60 stream, but then if you want to go to 2, it's going to be 1080p only. Not quite sure. Not quite sure why this says 2 4K sources, but probably an old slide, out of date. And then you also, as a decoder, you still have your local sources. So Dan and I were kind of talking about this before the webinar. This is a great device to use as a decoder because not only will it output your 2 HDMI outputs, but then when the customer comes to you and says, hey, I've got this barcode click share, or I've got an Apple TV that I need to add to the system, you plug this in directly to the decoder and you still have local sources that you can send to those outputs. So really full feature rich box. And then stream any combination of 1080p locally or over the network. And one of the great things about all of our products, but especially with our NV32s and NV21s, when you open this in Designer, it's really drag and drop. You pull in your encoder, you pull in your decoder, you make the connections, and like any other system, you can pull your video switching out and put it directly on your touch panel, and makes it super easy to be able to program your system and get up and running really quickly. The generic sources also, there's also pins available on these that give you things like valid format, so it allows you to be able to check when there's something actually connected, and then you can program it to switch to that source when it's connected. So some really great features that are built into this box. As Dan mentioned, we use a variable bit rate type of video compression. It's called Q-SYS Shift. It's our own proprietary video codec, and it allows you to have very high quality, low latency video streaming with resolutions up to 4K 6444 over a standard gigabit network. And so, like we mentioned, it's adaptable bitrate, meaning that we're only looking at the frames that are changing. And so it allows us to reduce the bandwidth consumption on that network port. So when we're doing something like this on a PowerPoint where there's not much changing from slide to slide, we're only going to look at the things that change, and that's only going to be the things that consume bandwidth. Whereas if we're doing something like full motion graphics, you're still going to have higher bandwidth usage, but definitely less than what you would have in, say, like a typical JPEG 2000 type product. So, like I mentioned, this has a USB-B port to be able to extract Q-SYS peripherals. So if you have cameras, have your system built with Q-SYS cameras, and you're using, let's say, a Dante microphone or our NMT1, you're able to extract all those devices off the network, off the USB type B port, plug it into a laptop, or like I said, you can plug it into your Lenovo codec, and be able to get those devices into a PC and have a MTR or a Zoom room type functionality. So it really consolidates a lot of the functionality and frees up space and reduces the amount of hardware that you need. So let's see, if I'm using an NV32H in core mode and using HDMI inputs and outputs as a video matrix, am I able to strip audio, de-embed from any of the inputs and route it as needed? Yes, you can do that. So you can expose the audio pins on either the encode or the decode side. So let's say you expose your audio pins on the decode side, it's going to allow you to pull whatever switched audio is, follow the video that's being shown on the display, or like I said, you can expose them on the encode side and route whatever audio you want on the encoder to those specific audio pins. So yes, you can de-embed it and route it as needed. Very flexible.
I actually, I use that at home because, in most commercial environments, most commercial AV, we don't deal with a lot of multi-channel audio, but in a residence, when I have a little demo kit at home here, right? And so that's how I manage, like if I'm getting 2-channel audio from a source or if I'm getting 8-channel, I'm de-embedding, I'm taking that audio out right at the source and then running it through a series of switching and, auto detecting, hey, wait, only 2 channels are live, it switches. So yeah, pretty flexible what you can do with that too. So.
Absolutely. And then you again, kind of simultaneous, you can support all different kinds of video applications, web applications, and room designs. Single display, dual display. And a single SKU really simplifies that ordering process. So, like I said at the beginning, you can decide whether this is an encoder or a decoder at design time. It's just one SKU that you have to order, and you can decide what it is. We talked a little bit at the beginning about it being core capable, so it gives you all those processing capabilities and I/O capabilities. You can add in like your microphones. You can add in a Q-SYS amplifier and some of our speakers to really integrate a room, and really gives you a lot of flexibility in what you're using, and just allows you to reduce the component count and the points of failure. So single box that can do a lot, one place to troubleshoot if something goes wrong. So when it's in core mode, it does act as a 3x2 video switcher. So you have all of the same features that you have when it's in peripheral mode. Additionally, there is, and we'll talk about this in a little bit, there's an additional license that allows it to be an encoder or a decoder in core mode. So great feature-rich box that allows a lot of flexibility. True Q-SYS processing, so all the things that you know about us. 32 by 32 audio channels, 8 AAC channels, one VoIP soft phone, audio, I/O via HDMI, USB, and 3.5 millimeter. And then again, that USB HID over IP, the ability to route keyboard and mice over the network to different computers when you need them. So really great box. Like I said, this is one of my favorites in our lineup. We do have software-based licenses. This is an older slide, so the USIDE deployment slide and scripting engine feature license are no longer needed. Those are included with every box. But we have Q-SYS Reflect and Dante for Q-SYS, so you can enable those licenses. And then this should show that if you're going to do streaming, you need the streaming license. But if you need help with that, feel free to reach out to your Q-SYS rep, and they'll get you in touch with either myself or one of your AETs, and they'll be able to help you select the right licenses. So it gives you native onboard local HDMI sources without the need for any programming. Again, it's all drag and drop within Q-SYS Designer. Web conferencing and voice over IP, we support all the major ones, Microsoft Teams, Zoom, and Google Meet. You probably saw that if you came by and saw us at InfoComm. We had a specific kiosk showing all of our different integrations. And then here's what you get, the couple differences that you get in core mode and peripheral mode. Now, there should probably be an asterisk under network video encoding and decoding because that is available in core mode. You just have to buy the license. So again, an older slide, but that is available. You just need to purchase the license, but everything else here, is available. And we talked about the video streaming and feature license. So really kind of as a recap, it can be a full-featured Q-SYS core processor and network video encoder or decoder. It combines a lot of the functionality of core mode and peripheral mode, and really it eliminates the need for a separate Q-SYS core processor. So you're able to design a system here without needing to add a Nano or a Core 24F or or something like that. And then you can continuously expand this. So again, the scripting engine and UCI deployment license are no longer needed, but we do, it's very scalable and ability to add more features on and on. Question from Patrick says, why is the channel count?
I'm going to do a little research on that. I want to get the real numbers, and then we'll come back to it. So
great.
I see it, but we'll get to it.
Okay, perfect. Thanks, Dan. So you can deploy these licenses very easily. If your core is connected to the internet, you go into Core Manager, you put in your entitlement ID, activate the license, pull it into the device, and you're done. We do have an offline and a local installation where you would go to our licensing server web address, you put in your entitlement ID, pull the license down, and then install it on the core. Both are very simple to do and easy. But it's definitely easier if you are able to access the internet. And I kind of failed to mention that all of our cores have at least 2 LAN ports on them. And really the way that we see that is LAN A is typically for your in-room AV network, keeps all your devices on a singular network. You don't have to worry about getting security to approve all those devices. You just need them to approve the core. And then LAN B is typically the port that goes out to the internet. That would be for Reflect and then deploying your licenses. And so it's just a singular connection that needs to go out to the internet and reach out to Reflect. So you don't have all of your devices or all of your peripherals that are talking out to Reflect. They're all talking through the core, and then there's one connection going out talking to Reflect and providing status and things of that nature through Reflect. All right, moving on to the NV21. So NV21 network video again, two inputs. So this has an HDMI input and a USB-C input, and then one single HDMI output. Again, this can be an encoder or a decoder. And so we all know that USB-C gives you that single cable that is really an easy button. It's one cable that can provide video, audio, and USB and power. Power requires the optional PSU, but you can do video, audio, and USB with just a single cable if you're not using power. So we have a power input. We do have an optional power supply for this. Something about the NV32, kind of backing up a little bit, it does require 90 watts of PoE. We do now have a PoE power supply for that. So if for some reason your network switch doesn't support 90 watts, you can buy a PoE inline injector from us that'll allow you to power that up. This guy requires 45 watts of power, so 60 watts of PoE, and then it'll run at 45 watts. We do like to talk about PoE and PoE classes because not all PoE is the same. PoE++ on a Netgear switch might be different than PoE++ on a Ubiquiti switch. So something to keep in mind that not all PoE, when you see the ++ symbols, is all the same. So we like to talk about it in PoE, type 3, type 4, and that you can go research and know that type 4 is 90 watts, type 3 is 60 watts, and just makes things easier.
I noticed, I mean, early on with the NV32, there was a lot of like, hey, I got a ++ injector, and it's like, well, it's doing 6, and
Yep.
and it was like, I literally had someone say, I'm using a Sarah Lux or something
Yep.
injector. And I'm like, well, that goes to 60. We need 90.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the typing is important there as well.
Absolutely.
So.
Yeah, my own personal experience, I use Ubiquiti here at home. My port says PoE++. I'm like, great, this should work perfectly. And all I got was a rebooting NV32, and I was like, well, I guess I need to go find a power supply. And thankfully, I had a couple lying around. So,
Pardon me, because I've been in training and doing some other things here. So do we truly have a PoE injector now for this? Because I know we have a local power supply. Cool. And also I think we have a local. Do we have a local power supply now we sell for the NV32 as well? I believe
we do not have a local power supply for the NV32. So if you need a local power supply for that, any 48 volt, I believe it's have to go back and look at the slides. It's 48 volts, so we don't sell a local power supply, but that's why we came out with the PoE injector. Makes that super simple. That way you don't have to worry about, what power supply do I need? You just buy our power injector, and it works with the NV21 or the NV32. It's 90 watts. Really.
Okay, that's where I was. Hey, thanks. I learned something today, guys.
Yeah.
Thanks, Tommy. It's actually, I was thinking it was a local power supply, but it's a 90 watt PoE.
It is a PoE injector. Yeah. So
that was good because then it'll work for the 21 or the.
Exactly.
All right. Hey, we'll stop chatting and get back to the webinar. So
that's all good.
Oh, shoot.
So like I said, this has a USB-C input, so it does 4K 60 444 video distribution over DisplayPort alt mode. It can also do the AV bridging, so USB data. It can also bring in the USB HID peripherals if you have those plugged into another device. And then it will do device charging. Now, With the NV21, it does require the aux power supply. So Dan and I were just talking about a PoE injector. Unfortunately, you cannot do the device charging with the PoE injector. The LAN port is only 60 watts. We provide 60 watts of device charging at that USB-C port. So if you want to do device charging on the USB-C, you do need the auxiliary power supply for this device, and that'll give you the 60 watts plus power up the box itself.
Yeah, I mean, and that's a great app. I mean, that's an application for when this is the input device at the conference room table or something,
Right.
right? Or at a lectern, right? Where someone's gonna, it's just one less thing that they've got to bring a power supply in if they're running,
Yep.
almost every laptop's USB-C.
Yeah,
I do
let's say
want to, oh,
I
go
was going
ahead.
to say, let's say I'm using this as a decoder and I plug in, let's say, an Intel NUC or some small form factor PC. I wouldn't necessarily need the device charging. I can just plug in that USB-C cable and get all my functionality out of that without needing charging, and I can still power it up PoE, put it behind the display with my Intel NUC, and and I'm off to the races.
Hey, I'm gonna take over the screen real quick so we can go back address that Dante. I just wanted to pull some charts up so it kind of makes it a little
Okay.
easier to go through. So I'm gonna just share my screen here. I believe in I still believe in love. So send a request. So there we go. I sent a request to you if you'll
Yep.
let me change out. So and did it let me?
I
Okay.
wonder, do I need to, I'll stop sharing.
Yeah, once you stop sharing, that'll be
There we
easier.
go.
There we go. And I'll share this screen. All right, cool. So the question came in is why is the channel count of Dante so low on the boxes like the NanoFlex and the 24F? And once again, it's going to go back to bandwidth, right? And I wanted to have the actual numbers here so we can kind of look at it. In NV32, we don't doesn't come with, and maybe Patrick's thinking of, the ones that come with 8x8 standard, and I don't know, we can look at that. But so the NV32s, we don't put any on that because you might use it as an encoder, a decoder, not a processor. But when you start at the Core Nano, the 8 Flex, and the Core 110, those all come with 8 channels. Actually, all of our processors come standard with 8x8. And then you can license them up to 32 by 32. And maybe, Patrick, for some of your applications, that's not enough. But the whole idea is we don't want to erode, like on the Core 110 can do 128 by 128, but when you start, there's a little asterisk there. When you start adding some of the other features in, it limits it down. But it's really about the total number of streamed audio channels in and out. So when we do 32 software, or we do 32 by 32 and we don't license up a Core 8 Flex, then we're really only going to have 32 channels, network channels of Q-SYS that can come in and 32 channels of network that can go out. So it's about that. My question was regarding the Macs. For many applications, there are 0 analog I/O. So I would love to use the Nano, but I need 75 Dante inputs. Well, so the Nano would only I guess you could license, I get what you're saying, because we could license it up to 128 of its ability to handle those network channels. But yeah, I see what you're saying. That takes a big jump because even the Core 24F is only going to go to 64. So I think it just has to do with we have to balance the how much bandwidth we're going to get in and out on that audio and how much the processor can process. So
Yeah, something to keep
that
in mind.
steps you up to a server Core 10, which is substantially a bigger price. So
Yeah,
I
I would say
appreciate the
something.
feedback, and yeah, I think it's kind of processing limitations of each
Yeah.
processor.
Yeah, it's software Dante, so it's running onside the processor inside of the box. So, because that's a processing heavy resource, that's likely why we limit it. We don't want you to overrun the amount of processing that you have available, and then you run out of resources for other things. So.
Could very well be, but hey, good point. I mean, can't have a perfect answer for
Yeah.
everything. So, but it makes sense. So, all right, if
Cool.
you want to go ahead and share again, Tommy.
Yeah. All right. So we've kind of talked about a lot of the speeds and feeds of this box. HDMI input for any other sources. You can use the HDMI in and the USB-C together. So if you're not running video on that USB-C port, that USB-C can be data only if you need it to be. And then you can run an HDMI input. And then In encoder mode, you have a local HDMI out, and in decoder mode, you have that is your primary HDMI output for decoder. Any information about the USB-A? So yes, it's the same USB HID port that you would get on the NV32. So you can plug let's say a keyboard dongle into that, get a wireless keyboard and mouse out onto the network, be able to distribute that to any devices. It does not, let's say, distribute like, let's say you're using a rally bar or something like that. It will not distribute video over the network. Because we're kind of making a general assumption that you're using Q-SYS peripherals in this design, and that's why we are able to pass those using MediaCast, which is a low bandwidth type of video feed, over the network, and then pull them off of the network using the USB port. When you start passing things like a Logitech rally bar or high bandwidth video, that's going to consume a lot of bandwidth. And so, when you look at, we're doing video, audio, and USB over a single port, like Dan mentioned earlier on, that comes down to that 1 gigabit port on the box. It's really a kind of, limits what you can do.
Also, I would say one thing to note on the NV21, we talked about one of those USB. You could use one of those USB-A ports to bring in some external audio for like a speakerphone. You get one channel in and 2 channels out. The USB-A port on the NV21 does not have that, but that is something in properties, and it's called external USB audio. It's limited to our cores and our NV32s. So.
Can you plug a USB hub into the USB-A port to expand device counts? Yes, yeah, you can plug a hub into it. So, like we said, this can be an encoder or a decoder. So again, one SKU that allows you to, order just the box count you need, and then you can define what it is in designer software, and really gives you a lot of flexibility, whether you use it in HDMI mode or USB-C mode. A lot of connectivity there. Also to note that you can stream 2 outputs simultaneously, similarly to the NV32. At 1080p. So this box will do 2 simultaneous streams at 1080p output. So you can stream both of those ports if you need, say, the USB-C going somewhere, and maybe you have a secondary connection that's, let's say, your content or your people feed. You can stream both of those to 2 displays. Yeah, again, this talks about 1080p versus 4K. Size, talk a little bit about size. The NV32 is a half rack width by 1 RU. The NV21, we really don't define that. It's really meant to go either behind a display or underneath a table. Great little device that can mount up under a table, be low profile and out of the way. It's about 2/3 the size of the NV32 and much shorter. So. And the last device we're going to talk about is the NV1. So this is an HDMI wall plate. The WE stands for wall plate encoder. This is the only device that is an encoder only. So we really made this device so if you need to get an HDMI input on the wall or somewhere, in the back of the room and you don't want to mount a box, this is a great box just to get an HDMI input into the system. Does have a dimmable LED that is programmable within software, so you can do a few things with it. You can have it dim when there's nothing connected. You can have it go bright when something is connected, just to show a little bit of status there. And then a LAN port on the back that is Type 2, so this is 30 watts of PoE. There is a black conversion kit available, so if you need a black wall plate, you can order the optional accessory and swap that out for white or black. So this is just a recap of the lineup that we've talked about today. The NV32 can be core capable, great for those medium to smaller conference rooms where you just have a few sources and maybe 1 or 2 displays. Like we said, PoE++, so 90 watts on this guy, Type 4 PoE, so It does consume quite a bit at startup. So while it might only run at 70 watts, in a general, you do need that full 90 watts. I've had experience, again, when I first unboxed mine, it kept rebooting, and until I hooked it up to a 90 watt PoE, then it stabilized. So something to keep in mind if you plug one in and it keeps power cycling. Good to know that that you might not have enough PoE power. NV21HU encoder decoder is peripheral mode only, 2 input, 1 output, integrated AV bridging, 45 watts of PoE, so it needs 60 watts. And then our wall plate encoder, which is only an encoder. No AV bridging on this guy, but really it's meant to have a remote HDMI source. If you have an NV21 in the rack, can you use a USB extender to extend the AV bridge connection to a laptop in the room? We do not support, as a definition, we do not support USB extenders. Really these, especially with USB-C, it's kind of a wild, wild west on cables out there. This is a USB 3.0 connection, so really we recommend staying within the limitations of USB 3, which is about 6 feet at the most. You might be able to get 10, but really 6 feet is the maximum for USB 3.0. And then it looks like Dan answered the other question. Great, thank you, Dan. So everything designed for Q-SYS, again, we talk about Q-SYS as an ecosystem. So we just are not talking about the black boxes that we make. Q-SYS is really everything that makes up, all the software, all of the partnerships that we have. It's really the ecosystem of products that we have, and how everything comes together under one software platform. Q-SYS Designer is all that you need to program a system, whether you're just doing DSP or you're doing DSP and control, or you're doing the full thing, everything's done in Designer. So let's talk about a couple installations and how really installations become simplified when you're using NV products. So here we have a conference room table that has a couple of laptop sources. We maybe have a credenza or maybe IDF closet that has our network switch, our NV32 in core mode. So this is going to run our entire room. We have a SPA-Q amplifier. And then kind of as we discussed, we have a PC and a wireless presentation device that's in this rack, and that we need to get to the display. So we have a single connection out to the display. We have a couple Q-SYS cameras, some of our acoustic design speakers, a couple ceiling speakers, and our microphones. And really, one thing that amazed me as I started designing Q-SYS designs was just how much network connection there is. And really, that's what simplifies the installation experience. You're not worried about, oh, I need this type of line level cable, or I need this microphone cable that's shielded, or I need this, specific coax connection. All of our connections run over the network and run to a centralized network switch. So, it's just amazing how much green is on here, and how that really does simplify, because you're not thinking about specific connections. It's all a network connection, and it all goes to one central place. We started this discussion with talking about matrix switchers, and back when I got started in this, you had a switcher for video, you had a switcher for composite video, for component video, for RGBHV, and you had to know where all these things went. And now it's just a singular network switch. Everything plugs into that switch, and you can get a system up and running relatively quickly. So yeah, this is a meeting conference room, small training room. NV21s under the table, mounted, under with their included mounting arms. Everything going to the network switch, and that's in the rack. This now, as we kind of hinted at the beginning, might be better served under an NVM design. It can be done with NV. So we have here a handful of NV21 decoders at each of the displays, running both HDMI and serial controls. Now I can turn all of them off. All of them on, from one touch panel. We have an NV1 wall plate encoder, so this allows me, let's say we rent this out as a meeting space. I'm able to have someone come in and plug in into this encoder and be able to distribute that to all the displays. NV32s in my rack that are supporting my 3 satellite receivers, so 1080p on each of those, which is more than enough. A PoE switch, and then this is being run off of a Core 8 Flex. So maybe I have a few microphones going into this. That Core 8 Flex would allow me to have a few wireless or handheld microphones where I can, be able to have voice reproduction over the speakers. And then a CXQ amplifier, which is our high-powered amplifier. We do have a medium size now, so again, might be better served by the NPAQ, but maybe we're doing some rock band in here, or have a have a concert or something like that. So
I don't know of an AD series speaker that does 500 watts, but man, if we had one, we
this
could.
place would rock. Yeah, absolutely.
I think they top out at 60, but maybe depending on which one you get. Anyway,
Okay, I'm going to say those back 3 speakers are all subwoofers, and this place is going to rock.
there you go. Oh, shoot.
Well, that's all I have for today. That's the presentation. Thank you for joining us. I know we have about 15 minutes left, so we're going to stick around, answer any questions. Let's see, newer NVM endpoints are not at this presentation. Yeah, we have an NVM webinar coming up on August the 4th, so I'd encourage you to sign up for that. Feel free, and that'll talk all about NVM endpoints. And I hope, I haven't actually seen that yet, but they should talk about some of the interoperability between NVM and NV. So that's not something that's in this slide, but the NV encoders did in 10.4 get another feature update in that they can now be NV or MediaCast encoders. So NVM stands for Network Video MediaCast, which is what our cameras typically run on. Now you can make an NV32 or an NV21 MediaCast encoder and be able to pull those into your NVM system. We occasionally get questions about how do I get a laptop, let's say, onto the video bridge. That can now be done with NVM. So stay tuned for that webinar on August the 4th. Sign up for it, and you'll learn all about it.
Yeah, and that was we kind of covered it at the top of the hour, but maybe you came in a little bit late or whatever. But yeah, there's so many features with NVM that we would go on another 30 to 45 minutes. But I appreciate it. Yeah. So yeah, look for the August 4th one and sign up for that. It'd be great. So any other questions we've got? I don't want any of that, if nothing sticks to Teflon, how do they get the Teflon to stick to the pan, Actually, I'd take that if you need to, because Teflon just doesn't stick to, proteins don't stick to Teflon, but Teflon can be adhered to metallurgy. So there you go. So I don't even know if that's a real answer or not, but it's the one I made up. So
nice.
So anyways, well, great. We appreciate everybody taking time in. We'll give a couple minutes here if somebody's still typing a question, but if not, you get 10 minutes of your day back. We really appreciate you making the time to do this. Yeah, so I have to ask Patrick Barron, where are you located at? I worked at AVI-SPL for 13 years, and I felt like there was a Patrick Barron there, but that may not be you. I did it. So where are you? If you're willing to share, where are you geographically located? So I might know how we can help you out there. So. Or feel free to reach out to me, dan.waltons@qsc.com. If you've got anything that comes up. Tommy works is a solutions architect, and for business development. Sometimes on these webinars, we have our application engineers from the different regions in the U.S., things like that. So if you decide to reach out to Tommy or myself, I manage the training efforts from coast to coast. So I'll get you to the right person. Same thing with Tommy. If it's a quick question, he can get it out of there. Um, then he'll do that. If not, he'll get you to the right application engineer in your region or something
Absolutely.
like that. So we're all here to help, but just don't feel like you're getting punted if someone moves on. We want to get you to the best person to support what you need there. So um, cool. Thanks for sharing, Patrick. Where at in the country are you located? If you don't mind sharing. Is there a generic AV design help me can use? I'm in DFW. What I would say is, what I'll do is I'll connect you with, let me just see who's in that area now. Boy, the application engineers change because people promote and move up in here. But there is not a generic AV design help, but I will get you the application engineer for your region or at least one of the groups. I know for sure you could reach out to Jason dot Francois. He handles the central region, but he's up north. But there's some other folks on his team. So let me get an email for that. So look at that. Always want to help out. So I worked with Clay when I was hell yeah, definitely. Clay's a good dude. He works under in the same team that I do as well. I think, is it Sam or is it Kelly Miller? I think Kelly Miller is down um in your part of the country. So trying to find out where he's at. Well, it just says remote non-cal. I think you can either hit you can either hit up Jason.Francois at QSC. You can hit up Kelly, Kelley .Miller at QSC.com. Or heck, hit up Clay. Hit up Clay Scholler at QSC.com. He'll get you to the right folks as well, too. So, but yeah, we appreciate it. Any other questions from anyone? Oh, we've got a couple down here. Jason is the man. He was our engineer, but they moved him. There you go. Yeah, he's a really awesome guy. One of our other applications, well, now one of our gave him the name of Frenchie because we had like three Jasons in one region. So being Francois, he got the nickname of Frenchie. I literally will type Frenchie in and it'll come up. That Dan, is that a cowboy rushing over your right shoulder? That is absolutely. That is Cole Beasley. It is a Cowboy, and I am a Cowboys fan. So I'm an American. They're America's team. I live in Wisconsin. I get a lot of grief from the Packers fans, but happy to do that to you. But yeah, Patrick, if you want to email me at dan.waltens, it's on the screen, should be shown on screen at QSC. I'll send an email out to those folks as well for you as well too. Yeah, I've got a Cole Beasley and one of our sales guys gave me that and a J Nova check. So yeah,
Nice.
absolutely. But I'll switch it over to Novacek in a little while. So, but I like the bees because he walked on and played for quite a few years, and yeah, pretty good. So, all right, nice, cool. Well, I think that's got us. We're
Yeah.
down to a short. We're down to the people that just started the webinar and walked away. They don't realize we're just BSing at this point. So, but, anyways, have a great day,
Yeah.
everybody, and we'll talk to you later.
Thanks for joining. See you
Thanks.
guys.